are listening to the Balancing Act podcast. Here's your hosts, Jamie Wonko and Joe Vitale.
Guess what? We are officially recording.
Ooh la la. Welcome to the Balancing Act podcast. I am Jamie Wonko. I am here with Mr. Joseph Vitale. Oh, Diet Coca-Cola
Dessert
Vitale.
soda. Yes.
How are
I
you
need to
today?
pick me up today. I'm good. There's a lot going on. Just busy this time of this time of year. Getting through the doldrums of March and keeping ourselves marching the long slog to the end of the year. I
love a parade, Mr. Vitale. I love
do?
a parade.
It's good to know.
And
I
March
love
is
a parade.
I do. March
Good.
is fraught with parade after parade after parade.
It is.
And I, have lots of marchers that I've raised, and they play in the parades. And that, I have to say, is like the gift of March, a little Blarney Stone,
Good for you. A lot of St.
Thank
Patrick's
you.
Day parades coming
Thank you
up, right?
to my fellow Irishmen and women who march through March.
Yeah. I do love a parade too. I also remember one of the last times I think I was at our town does a wonderful St. Patrick's Day parade.
They do.
And I think one of the last times I was at it was right before the world collapsed in 2020. I remember being down because my parents live right close to the parade route. So we
Sure,
literally
of
would
course.
park at my mom and dad's house and walk down the street and set up with the lawn chairs and, get the candy that's thrown to you and see all the things. And it was,
Like the
was
week
really
before.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It was a couple days before. I remember being out there, and I remember seeing a friend of mine from high school. We were there with our dogs, and she ran over and she petted our dogs, and we were talking to her for a little bit, and she was marching with one of the cheerleading groups or something. But yeah, it was definitely those are definitely really fun. I also marched in those parades back in the day when I was in marching band. Yeah, so it was great. And those are really, really fun, and I'm glad that your kids get that experience too.
So if there's any doldrums happening, get yourself out to a parade, we say.
Yeah, I love a parade. It's good stuff. I really just I said this before. I may have said it on an episode that and I don't know if it's happened yet because we're recording this episode a little bit earlier, but the first 60-degree day in March is going to hit like cocaine. Everyone is going to be "Ah!" and just be out there running around shirtless.
In their shorts.
In their shorts.
Definitely. Their flip-flops, all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to kids are going to be attending TCNJ in the fall, which is exciting. And my daughter attended some classes. And while she was at one, that's, where I went to school. So I was walking around and I distinctly remember the lawn in front of the towers to Travers and Wolf. That was the place where everyone would lay out in the sun and throw Frisbees around whenever you would get that first warm day. That's the place that you wanted to be. And I wonder if it's still like that. I don't know if it is, but I hope it is.
You'll know soon.
Yeah, right? My kids will probably send some pictures and stuff like that. It's definitely fun stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been, that process is still exciting. And now it's the filling out for scholarships and getting ready towards the end of the year and prom dresses and all those things. So it's really fun.
Yeah. I know that the school, they have, I guess, different organizations that give out various scholarships for the
Correct.
kids. And, the email reminders that come out. And I just thought it was funny, do not apply if you are not going to be I guess at the ceremony. So I guess it's very, very important for them. Right. So the ceremony is the day before their prom, the scholarship ceremony happens to be the night before.
Oh, really?
And yes. And so, so we were talking about wow, okay. And I guess they, have this commitment of, I said, wow, that's, we think that we've been, I feel like this is a kind of a lull almost in the winter months of once the, May and June, I think will be really wild with things, multiple things every week, and even just that as an example, Wednesday night scholarship awards and Thursday night prom.
I know, it's crazy. And
Yes.
that's right around Memorial Day weekend, which is when I'm normally traveling.
It's the week after.
Yeah, I head out west to visit a friend of mine, and we go to the Indy 500. And my daughter might actually be coming this year, so it'll be a very busy week. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yes. I'm so glad the prom is not Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think
Yeah,
it would be
I'm happy
best
it's
for them
not.
not to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, I
So
thought that was funny. Like, wow. And our kids' class is huge. So I really wonder, I'm so interested in how many of the kids fill that out. 100?
I know.
What do
Yeah.
you think?
I would think it's about that.
Yeah.
Um,
I want to
my
ask. I'm curious.
my graduating class. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of loss for our class, especially parents that have lost children. Unfortunately, so we've tried to create a small scholarship, in honor of the number of our classmates that have lost children. For a variety of different reasons, and we try to. So we every year we fill out like a little scholarship application thing. We put that in. We choose somebody, or actually the guidance department chooses someone.
Yeah.
And the only stipulation is I'd like to, after they get the money, I'd like to tell them why we're giving them that scholarship.
Yeah.
So we normally have like a brief little phone call, and I say like, hey, our class has experienced a lot. I'm the one who kind of administers the scholarship as a former class officer. I try to like do that to pay it forward for former classmates.
Bring the barren pride. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, we're actually a little late. We forgot because we got into some heavy stuff and started talking about things. So our season 3, because we forgot to do our ad read, our season 3 is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Teachers Insurance Plan. Make sure you check out their website, which is tagged in our episode. Teachers Insurance Plan, auto insurance that brings exclusive educator savings and exceptional customer care to New Jersey and Pennsylvania educational employees. So
Nice.
sorry,
Nicely done.
sorry about being a little bit later there, Teachers Insurance Plan, but we got into to some important stuff. Life just gets in the way
Yes.
sometimes.
So I'm curious how many kids apply and
Yes,
fill it
sorry.
out, and also, how many awards there are.
Great question. Don't know.
Those are my questions.
Yeah.
Somebody did mention to me, a parent recently in a meeting said that her son won some music award or something like that last year, and
Mhm.
she said and it was a good amount of money, and I was
Good.
just like, I wonder
Yeah.
what that means. I wonder what you think a good amount of money is. Is a good amount of money $500 is a good amount of money, $1,000? I have no idea, but it'll be interesting to see. And I know, as a former PTO president, we always gave one to a student from the elementary school that they attended, and
Yes.
and so of course I was like, oh, geez, I really hope Drew gets that.
Yeah, of course.
As someone who gave of my own service and time for so many years, that would be nice.
It would be. It would be.
But there's
Yeah, and
quite a few of them in his class that I did PTO with that I
Yeah.
was like, oh, you got some tough competition this year for that.
Yeah, but hopefully, I think they probably do a good job of sharing the wealth to make sure that kids get recognized for a lot of the wonderful things that they did.
Yeah.
And the things that they were involved with, whether it be sports, academics, community service.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say there's probably a good, 50 to 60 awards, I would assume.
Yeah. And it's and if you can't be there, it just cracked me up. Last night we were joking, don't come. Don't come.
Yeah. No, but I don't think that that's wrong. You should be
don't
going
either.
to the award
Correct.
ceremony. I mean, they hopefully will let you know if you'll be receiving an award. Please make sure you attend. I mean, you don't want to
Definitely.
show up and then not get anything.
Oh, right. No.
You know what I mean?
No. Yeah,
So,
for sure.
it's just a pleasure to be nominated. Stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, this is a follow-up episode to our previous episode that we did without Dr. Allison Hitchens, and we kind of got on a subject regarding self-care, which is kind of one of those terms that's blech. It's kind of icky to talk about because of the systemic issues that we have specifically in education. And I think Jamie and I thought it would be a good follow-up to kind of dive into our thoughts on it and talk about what's our take. So here we are. That's what we're going to be discussing today as we jump into our episode.
Yeah. And the idea of self-care is that it is not, I know it's self-care is not selfish. And so when the term first began, I really, we've kind of referenced some of that before of, put the oxygen mask on yourself before putting it on someone else, and really trying to make sure that you are not burnt out. However, being that it is March and it is Women's History Month, I really have to say that like so much of this, I think, is really female driven.
Yeah. When we talk about
Yikes.
When we talk about balancing things, right? And we talk about, all the balls we keep in the air, all the juggling that we do. I think the one that gets dropped the most is the one about self-care. And that's a big ask for us, especially depending on where we are in our careers and in our personal lives, to say, oh, let me carve out some time for myself. And that's where our spouses come in. That's where our family members come in, where we maybe get that opportunity where we can carve out that time for ourselves. But a lot of times, I think there's this idea of guilt that surrounds you taking time for yourself when it's probably something that's needed the most. And that's a challenge. That's something that's very challenging. I know it's challenging for you, Jamin. It's definitely challenging for me. So
yeah, I don't feel guilty. But what I will say is what I have really, and I get a lot of content related to the mental load of women.
Yes.
And the idea that I was just listening to a clip and it said that parents today are more involved, minute to minute time spent mothering is actually greater now as a full-time working mom than it was for a full-time stay-at-home mom in 1980.
Yeah.
And so of course, because there is, a greater population of females in the teaching profession, is it another, sort of patriarchal system that is set up to continue the idea that like you should just handle it like women do in so many ways and for so many things.
Yeah. I actually really like the we are both on the student equity team at our school, and you have Women's History Month.
Yes.
So I know you actually had a very good activity for us to do in the social studies department regarding mental load, and something that we could easily do with our students to have them recognize what that means. And if you want to kind of describe what that lesson is.
So the idea of the, unimagined mental load, and I think a lot of this does fall into the category with parenting and also with teaching, is the idea of how much women see that like the average, and of course we're going to say some, not all, what happens with what women pick up on, what women see, what women handle, what women do. And it isn't just necessarily about chores. Okay. It is also, tell me what I should do. So there's a lot of this exchange in many marriages, great marriages, where, the husband is going to the store and he says, well, make me a list, right? Why do you need me to make you a list? If you live here, you should know what we have or don't have.
Yes.
Right? The idea of doctor's appointments, report cards, teachers' names, supplies needed. There's just so many things. So it's like if you're in a home where there are two parents and they're both working, how do you really look at like the mental load of your partner and say, this is what you're going to do to lighten, this is what we're going to do together. Or, I'm going to use golf for an example. We were having this talk this morning here in the house. And I said, gosh, I've heard a lot of people go back and forth about golf, and, what a great hobby to have that can last anywhere from 6 to 12 hours.
It's not 6 to 12 hours, but I get it.
Right? So and when will we be done? No one knows. How long will it last? We're not sure.
Yeah.
And so actually this talk started because my husband and my son get their hair cut together.
Mhm.
And I probably
As do myself and my
Right.
son. Yes.
So what I was saying was, I was saying to them, because my daughter actually just got her hair cut by the same woman. And I said, oh my goodness, we're talking about college and oh my goodness. And she has been cutting his hair since he was 3.5, 4, like forever and ever. This is like the third salon we followed her to. Right. And she's just like, I can't believe he's going to college. And oh my gosh, and so my husband used to go to a barber shop. And I said, geez, I've never, and he said, I'll never go back to the barbershop. You sit there for so long. And I said,
Yes, you do.
I'm so interested. Is that another advantage that like men have set up for time away from wherever they're trying to get away from?
I mean, not for me. I know.
I don't mean you, but I was like, gosh,
Yeah.
I've never really, is that like the golf situation? Like, we're just not sure. We can't make an appointment. We have to go and sit there. And of course you want me to get my hair cut and I want to get a haircut. So I'll be back in 4 hours.
At most barbershops, that's what it is. I know the barbershop that I go to, you can show up if you don't have an appointment, but you're going to get who you get. I go to the same person.
You can get an appointment.
I can get an appointment, and I get an appointment every time because I don't want to
sit there
for 3 hours because I don't have that time. And
So
every
to
time
say-
I'm there, I go to this place in a local town, which I really like, and
What are you afraid people are going to flood you? Say where it is.
No, Corey Matthews. It's called Corey Matthews. It's
I mean, come on, salute the
same
beautiful
kid-
coif.
Yeah, the same kid from Boy Meets World cuts my hair. Corey Matthews.
Corey Matthews?
Yeah,
James?
Mr. Feeney is in the back room.
Topanga's there.
Yeah. Oh my God, Topanga. I mean,
Her hair is glorious.
I mean, was she not just an absolute specimen? What a pretty woman.
Such a doll. Yep.
I love you, honey, if you're listening. So, yeah, I don't, and even when I go there, they'll even offer like, hey, do you want like a beer or a bourbon or something? And I'm like, no, I have only taken it once. There was one time. It was just like it was a long week, and I was like, you know what, I'm having one, and because I'm a bourbon guy, so I had a little drink there. But like, I'm sure it's not legal. But at the same time,
I had a mimosa at a hair salon before.
I mean, I don't think anybody. I think people look the other way as long as people aren't getting like hammered. You're also not exchanging any money for that. Like they just give it away.
They're
Like,
just giving it to you. Yeah.
And it's not like it's an expectation of service. It's like actually the time that I got it, I actually said, hey, look, I know you guys normally offer it, and I normally say no, but
I'm saying yes.
I'm
Today's
saying
a yes
yes
day.
this time.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I really love going there. I like the girl that cuts my hair. It's not a man. It's she cuts my hair every time. My son goes to somebody different every time. For the most part, unless there's one specific person that he wants to go to, but he's like, I don't care. I'm just a creature of habit. What's really funny is, I'll tell this story just because I think it's funny. They give I used to have my beard, which Jamie hated, and so did everyone else. Gross. And she wants to say
Don't
it.
bring the beard back. Don't bring the beard back.
No. So they, when they shave you, they like put like a hot towel on your face. And in that barber shop, they would lean you back, and then one of the receptionist girls would come over and give you a hand massage. And I am like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do not want that. I do not want that ever. Do not give me a hand massage. So the girl, after a while, would keep offering me like a hand massage. And I'm like, Maria, I've been here like over a year. How do you not know I'm not going to get the hand massage? I mean, come on. She's like, well, actually, I wanted to tell you, like, I have like I get seizures every once in a while, so I have an effect on my short-term memory, so I don't like remember things. And I was like, oh, so I'm an ass, and I'll never bring that up again. But now she messes with me because every once in a while she'll be like, oh, do you want a hand massage? And I'm like, how do you know? She's like, I got you, didn't I? I'm like, God damn it. So
Why
now
don't
she,
you
like,
want the
closes
hand
it up and
massage? Makes you feel uncomfortable?
creeps me out. It creeps me out. It just does. It's just weird to me. The girls are like 20 and they're like massaging your hands and your face is covered and you can't see anything.
They massage both hands at the same time? Or is it like two girls, one on each hand?
No, it's one hand and then they go to the other hand. And I'm like, nope, no, I don't want, it weirds me out. I don't know why it weirds me out. It just does. I don't want anything to do with it.
Do they use cream or is it just bare hand?
They do. They use like some kind of like moisturizer stuff. It's
Do they
just
put
not
gloves
my,
on?
no.
And what does Joey say?
What does Joey say?
Yeah, like does Joey get the hand massage?
No, because he's never had a beard thing done. They only do it
it's
if you
only
do
your
if you.
beard.
Yeah, it's only your beard. So if you're laying back in the chair and they got the thing over your face, so like when we do,
I would
guess-
say yes every time. I just want you to know. Talk
that's
about
fine.
self-care. To me, like
To
the
me-
number one self-care is like getting a massage, foot massage, hand massage,
Yeah.
back massage, neck massage,
So-
head massage. Yes.
It's not that I don't enjoy a massage,
Okay.
which I kind of don't enjoy a massage, but like because I have a very active
I
brain.
can tell
It's
that
ver-
you can't like
it's
get
very
it down low enough.
it's
to
very
relax.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard. So like
It's
I
not,
know
it's the best.
I know you brought off golf before, but like me walking on a quiet golf course when the sun's going down, and I've got to experience this a couple times this past summer with my son. Like I tried to explain to him, like this is my favorite time. Like the moment where, like it's getting dark out, you got a couple more holes to play. You might get finished, you might not. You're not really rushing. You're just enjoying it. It's not crowded. There's not a lot of people around. You get to shut down the golf course and go home. Like that to me is therapy. Like those moments are like the time where I could like really soak that in and close my eyes and like really like be in that moment. And now that I get to share that with my son, it's even better because that little moment is, and he's kind of has that about me too. And I know we joke all the time about me being high strung and everything else, but in those moments, I am not. I'm very like relaxed and in the moment and able to control that and put everything else aside.
Right.
But that's me. And I also know like I try to do it at times where it's not going to be inconvenient for the rest of my family. A lot of guys are like, well, I'm golfing every Saturday morning. And I'm like, I don't do that on a Saturday morning. Number one, it's a lot more expensive. Not that I'm cheap. And number two, it's a lot of time. Like you said, it's like it could be 4 hours, or you could be stuck behind people that are playing slow, and it could be 6 hours. And then
Right.
people are meeting for a drink afterwards, and you're having something to eat. Like I don't have the capacity for a 10-hour day. It's not my thing. I'd rather go at in twilight in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, and get done at 7 o'clock, and know I can get home. And
So
make
do you
sure
think that
everything's
there
taken
is
care
a
of.
possible connection between the female populated profession,
Mhm.
the mental load, and the unrealistic expectations that we have for women in general connected to the profession, and then of course like your domestic life as well?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the administrators in most cases are also men. And it's very easy for them to say, oh, just make sure you take care of yourself. And like, I think if you are a female teacher who's also a mom of young children, you are in the weeds 24/7. And that references like, being in a restaurant and you have 4 tables in your section and you got all sat at the same time and you have to take 4 orders and you have to do different things. Like, you're in the weeds. You're trying to get yourself out of it. And I just feel that is a perpetual state that we need to then be removing stuff from people's plates instead of putting more on them. And saying, take care of yourself is putting something more on someone else's plate.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
So
to say, well, if you just took a little bit more time
Yeah.
for yourself when someone's not really sure how to navigate doing that.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, like there are different things. Like for me, the things that I really like to do are expensive. So especially when my kids were little, I didn't have like the extra money to do that. So to suggest to someone, oh, do A, B, or C, and they can't afford to do it is then now another challenge or like another way that you feel inadequate because you can't do the things that would make you happy because you can't afford to do that. So it's kind of like one thing on top of the other. So instead of fixing the system,
Mhm.
we just kind of catch on to these certain phrases. Now, I do encourage self-care, for lack of a better term, for women, for moms, for teachers, for anybody. And what I think is difficult, especially in our like very social media driven comparative society, what you define as something that would be helpful for you is not, people love to just like, oh, who would want to do that? Why would you want to do that? Why are you
I
going
get a lot
there?
of that from certain people that I think should not interject that opinion.
Mhm.
So I think that that's very difficult where you can say, oh, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to go to Disney World again? Why would you like, that's not it's not you. Like,
Right.
don't project something you don't like on someone else. Have you ever thought, I work in education, why is finding a job so weirdly hard?
Yeah, scrolling through random job boards where half the listings don't even make sense is not the vibe.
That's why njschooljobs.com actually makes sense.
It's a job board built specifically for New Jersey schools, public, private, charter, and parochial.
Teachers, administrators, counselors, support staff, coaching opportunities. If your job involves a bell schedule, this site's for you.
It's free for job seekers. You can upload your resume, set job alerts, and apply without jumping through hoops.
Schools across New Jersey actively use njschooljobs.com, so these are real, current openings.
They also host virtual job fairs where you can connect with multiple districts online. No driving all over the state.
Those are coming up soon, so check the link in our episode description to register.
Head to njschooljobs.com.
Every teacher knows that the first 5 minutes of class set the tone for everything that comes after. Lesson Launchpad helps you nail those first 5 minutes without scrambling. Presentations change automatically. Timers start automatically. Music sets the mood. Agendas and reminders appear right on time without you clicking anything. You set it up once, and Lesson Launchpad runs your class in the background while you focus on students. It's like having another teacher in the classroom with you. Check out lessonlaunchpad.com to start a 1-month free trial and use the code BALANCE for $5 off a yearly subscription. If you're ready to start every class calm, clear, and ready to teach, check out Lesson Launchpad today.
Do you know what weaponized incompetence is?
I absolutely do.
All right, tell me what it is.
So,
or like your understanding of it, because it's also tied into like self-care and mental load.
I know what it is. I'm just having trouble finding a good description or example. So weaponized incompetence would be you go to the store to go do the food shopping and you purposely are just like, oh, just buy the wrong things. And then you do it so many times incorrectly that you don't get asked to do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know
Why
what I mean?
don't you do it? You do it better than I do.
Yeah, isn't that weaponized? Is that weaponized incompetence?
Like,
I do know what it is. I'm just having trouble like wrapping my head around.
I mean, to me, that's a great definition of. That's a great description. It's like, well, you know what? And I feel as a female in our job, this has been used against me many, many times, and especially the younger that I was. You organize the trip. You make the phone call. You do a great job. This is also something that I have many times with difficult students. Hi, Mrs. Wonko. We're going to transfer Glenn into your class. Mr. So-and-so can't handle Glenn, so we're sending him your way.
Yeah.
And I know that you
I've
are
gotten a lot of that.
Such a great teacher. We have all the No. So you're good at your job, and then they're going to use your ability against you to give you more work.
Yes, and I've talked about that for a very long time. Like it's like, oh, we can't give this person that class, or we can't give it because they just can't. Like, well, okay, well, you never know. Like, you give it to them.
Right. So you're kind of saying someone else is incompetent. That makes more work for me.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Like, and we've joked around all the time that when you are good at your job, you get to do other people's jobs. So, yeah, whether it be
that is something that I'm just too old for.
Yeah. Oh, we can put this person in cafeteria duty because they're the one that is going to hold the students accountable, and then like all the other people around you maybe don't have not that they don't know how to do their jobs, but they might not have the personality to be like, hey, what are you doing? What? No, we don't do that here.
Right.
They cut it out. Like I have no problem having those conversations with anyone, but some people don't find that comfortable space to be able to do that. So they're quiet and more reserved. That is not a commentary on the person. It's just like sometimes you have to put people in those situations, and it makes it more difficult for the people that are trying to do things the right way in a particular situation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so I think it is a systemic issue. So when we were talking to Dr. Hitchens, she was saying that, the idea of in teaching, to encourage self-care is likened almost to that phrase that Nick Ferroni had said, like, do it for the kids, And so it is this, we are doing it for the kids. And if I could take 3 hours to myself, it still may not change what's happening to me in my day-to-day at work. So, even it makes me think of when we spoke to Jamie Ruffner, and she had talked about that her school district someone had suggested that perhaps she needed anti-anxiety medication.
Yeah.
And it was not something that she had ever, it's like, I don't. It's this class, it's this environment, it's this student, And so I think we've all had situations where that has happened, and it is unfortunate because I have yet to really come across someone who said someone swooped in and they took care of it right away.
Yeah.
We don't hear that very often. We hear the stories of the suffering of the staff who were sort of finagled, cajoled, whatever that word is, into handling it. But then at what cost?
So one of the pieces of research that Dr. Hitchens had shared with us was by Michael Huberman, the professional life cycle of teachers, which we will try and find the article specifically and link it in this episode description. So one of the points from that article was that teachers' professional lives unfold in evolving emotional and psychological phases. Okay. That the research shows that teaching isn't a flat career. It moves through distinct phases from career entry through mid-career experimentation to later disengagement. Each phase has its own typical feelings: reality shock and survival in the early years, bursts of creativity and self-doubt during experimentation, and later in the career, serenity or resistance to change. Recognizing these phases helps us understand how stress, motivation, and self-care needs to change over time, meaning that what a teacher needs for well-being isn't static, it evolves with experience. And I'm essentially in the later disengagement phase. Now, I enjoy what I do. We had a conversation just the other day. We were driving home, and I said to you, I really, really enjoy what I do and being in the classroom. Yeah. I hate everything else. That was my exact statement. Like, I don't want to deal with the additional trainings. I don't like the fact that professional development a lot of times is an afterthought. I don't want to deal with XYZ I don't. And all the extra things and the stuff that piles on top of it, and the changing of the, doing your own clerical work and timesheets, and we've talked about all this stuff. Like, doing all of that stuff creates yet another need for people to, I don't want to say disassociate, but like, and you used it in the last couple episodes, the term that you were using, detachment, right? Detachment, yes. Where you are detaching from the situation. I have done a much better job because I went through that mid-career experimentation phase where I was like working on technology initiatives and trying to do things in district to make it better, and like trying to be like, I would consider myself a voice of reason for a specific. Sense. Yeah,
it makes sense in the timeline because, in the beginning, that reality shock, as she described, is just that of, oh my goodness, like, I'm a grown up now and I have to do all of these different things and I have to try to stay on top of them. And a lot of it is just like managing, getting stuff done. And then you realize, okay, I kind of feel myself. I know how to do this. I have a handle on, certain parts of this job. So let me branch out, because you still have that idea of, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to make a change. I want to make things better. Yeah. And so you start to do that. And then, you swing into that disillusionment of, my goodness, every time I try to move the needle forward, I just get tossed back.
Yeah. And it's just like the only word that keeps coming to my head is like everything. Like we are doing everything. Like we are doing multi-tiered intervention strategies with multiple different kids at all different stages in the same classroom, as well as dealing with kids in a special education environment, regular education students who personally are being held back by anchors. And I don't mean that in a negative way towards those students, but like the fact that a regular education student is also in those classes kind of drags down the aggregate and makes it difficult for those students to be pushed academically. So, and granted, we're in a middle school, so we're not tracking them. We're not putting them in like advanced or higher classes, where maybe we need to also look into doing that, which is a whole other animal. But like, you know, we're trying to do all of these individualized one-on-one instruction things, working with the student who, you know, is on tiered intervention in a classroom of 26 kids in an English class, and you're expected to meet with this student for 10 minutes a day and give them individual work, and then provide feedback in whatever online portal, so then we can look at whether or not they're going to be tested or classified later. You have 25 other students that are on ELL levels, 1, 2, and 3, all in the same classroom, different special ed needs in all the same classroom. It's just, it is more and more and more untenable. And then you say, yeah, well, you know, just take care of yourself.
To quote the great Reese Witherspoon,
Oh,
what? Like,
God.
it's hard?
Yeah.
What? Like, it's hard? I mean, I really
Right
do.
on top of that, Rose.
As you're as you're saying all those things, it's like, what? Like, it's hard? And that is the way that we are looked at.
Yeah.
What's the big deal? Why can't you do that? Why not? You know, and so that is when we say systemic problem, you know, we do go back to, yes, because the public's perception and the way that we are viewed is what? Like, it's hard?
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of that coming, you know, everybody gets things from the top and then it trickles down, right? So I think there's a lot of like, there's no time for actual training, implementation, and professional development. So it's watch a video and figure it out. Like, you kind of have to figure all this stuff out on your own, and people are like, I don't have the capacity to do that. When am I supposed to do it? I mean, and you know, when we talk about this idea of the professional life cycle, right? I can get to that point now where I am because I'm confident enough in my ability in the classroom. I'm confident enough in how I administer my lessons, talk about my curriculum, do things in the class with my students. I'm confident enough with all of those things where I could say, this is just not something that I can handle. But I think that those teachers that are in that early phase, right, where they're maybe just getting past through the reality shock part, and like, I can make a difference, I can do this, and you are trying to do all the things.
Yeah,
it's not possible. And then you put on top of that, like, motherhood, and there is just there like the mental load for a female teacher going through. And I'm not saying it's not, you know, it's not different for men, but it is.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
I mean, and
it's not the same.
What we're learning and what we're talking about is sort of the idea of, you know, how much a woman has to think about, and to say like, oh, you don't need to think about that. It's like,
yeah,
but I do, because that is like genetically like how I am made.
Yeah. And when you like, sorry.
To compare that is such a disrespect, truly. And I'm not saying that, you know, dads aren't more involved, and, you know, that they're not a part of, you know, getting up in the middle of the night or whatever that might look like in different households. But anyone that talks about the mental load of women has to really genuinely believe that it's true. I am going to be honest with you. When I created the plan for what we were going to do as a school for March, for Women's History Month, I thought to myself, I'm in a department of almost all men.
Yes.
I don't know if I believe that most of them are going to believe in a woman's mental load, respect and understand it, or take the time to explain to the kids what that is, even though I put it in the directions. And that is my experience as a female.
Do you expect us to read the directions? Is that what you?
I would expect you to read the directions and then respect the concept of a female mental
I think it's
load.
a great idea.
Right. And because it's true. And I do think a lot of them are, you know, I think pretty much almost everybody in our department's married. and almost everybody has kids. And I would hope that, like, having seen it through that lens as a partner.
I think you're right. I think everybody, I think so. I think you're right.
So I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a better response, I would hope, and I'm interested to see how that'll play out with the kids, because it's so true. So there's this one girl that I follow, and she talks a lot about, hey, what's for dinner? And her spouse, I guess they kind of sat down together and they said, look, like, these are the things that I'm really struggling with. And one of them was like, what's for dinner? And she said, I don't want to know anything about dinner. I just want to sit down and eat it. Mm-hmm. So there was like there's absolutely like, he is shopping, he is preparing, he is because it kind of became this like exchange. And then she ended up like, even just the decision, which I am in a period right now of decision fatigue.
Oh, yes.
I do not want to make social decisions. I don't want to have to, I don't even want to walk into a room right now as being the first person to walk in. I don't want to have to decide what chair to sit. Like, I am so like at my limit that those things seem so incredible to me. So the decision fatigue is real. And especially, we have a lot of great husbands and partners and wives that are showing up and doing really terrific things and don't realize how much is actually swirling and going on. And so I think to say, oh, well, why don't you go get a massage? That's something that, my partner will say to me, why don't you just go get a massage? And my thought is like, oh my God, I have to call, I have to schedule it, I have to fund it, I have to book it, I have to show up for it, I have to make sure that it doesn't conflict with anyone else's schedules. So sure, great.
And it's really easy for me to say, no, you don't. You can just go. But it doesn't work that way. No,
right.
I'm dead serious.
And I think that's really like where the idea of that gets people like, oh.
I got my wife and my daughter massage gift certificates and like a salt scrubby thing from a local place.
Right.
And they haven't went yet. And I do like. I often thought to myself, like, should I really do this? Like, it's like, yeah, they got to do it, but then it's the day and go take it. And like but my daughter had also been complaining, like, I'm so itchy. Like, it's like dry skin season, right? It's like dry January is actually just like dry skin in our house.
Yeah.
You know how it is. It's wintertime and everything sucks and it's awful and I hate it. So
I think it's nice, like the giving of the permission is nice. I think the part that sometimes people don't see is how much is involved in carving out that time. But like what you said earlier of like feeling guilty, I felt that way as a young, like a mom to young children. Yeah. Whereas like the wisdom of my age and time, I mean, I got to a point where if anyone here was like, when are you coming back? I would go out, like I'd go out for dinner or like go out with friends and it was like, what time will you be back? And I was like, don't even ask me that.
Yeah, I had that happen a couple times with my wife when she would go out. But honestly, and it wasn't like, when are you coming back? I can't take this anymore. It was like, when are you coming back? Just so I know, because I'm, sometimes like she goes out after work and I'm like, and where she goes out, she works in Newark, New Jersey, which is not the safest place to go out. Right. So I do have concerns. Even when she leaves like super early in the morning to go to her office and she has a parking spot and it's a guarded, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
I'm always like, please text me when you get in the building. I was like, I don't care what time it is. Like, I know you leave super early and I know you get there. I want to know that you're in the building. And if she doesn't text me when she's in the building, I get upset because like, I want to know she's in the building and I want to know that she's safe, because I am genuinely worried about her when she goes out. And I also, I'm worried about her, like, and I don't check her location, but like there are times where it's late and I'm like, okay, she's still where she says she's going to be, because she said she'd be home by now, because I'm worried about the fact that she's out.
I check the location all the time, so
that's my mental load. I'm not checking it like, oh, is she where she says she's going to be? Like, that's not me.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's about that. I think it's more about being able to really go and do something without
Yeah.
What I saw somebody the other day who was like, "Oh, I'm going on a girls' weekend and I'm getting my house ready for me to be gone." And then she like turns around and she goes, "Nope, just kidding. I didn't marry a loser." And, so it is like, yeah, you should be able to go and not have to set the person up. And so I think that that's part of, and, and of course in teaching, we can't not be there. Mm-hmm. You can't just not go to work. So if your child is throwing up in the middle of the night and you have to call out, you also have to get plans together and get the whole day ready. You can't just focus on like, I'm sick, you're sick. It's like, it never ends.
I think, yeah, exactly. And I also, and just one final comment here on this,
yes.
like, I also think that like a lot of times schools will be like, oh, it's a professional development day or it's this day. And like, let's do a yoga class and like, let's do this thing. And like, I am like, I know I'm speaking about me, not from the female perspective. The last thing I want to do is when I'm at work and I know I have work that I have to do while I'm at work is like do bracelet making or yoga. That to me is like I don't want to do this. I would rather be homesick. And I always go, but I'd rather not be there.
Point? I think the point is understanding that it looks different for everyone.
Yes.
And genuinely like respecting that it is, people have to choose not only what makes them feel better, but also things that are sustainable over time, not just like a one and done and you're good for 45 minutes. And then we're just gonna, go back to the way that it was before. And I think like Dr. Hitchens, yes, changing the system is amazing. And especially for someone like her, who's a college professor, you try to change the system, try to get the younger people to understand how they can possibly shift and do things in a different way.
And I think they are because like we talked about in the episode when we visited a local college and they were like, leave at your contract hours. Don't take on extra responsibilities. Like they were saying all the things that like we didn't learn. So maybe we're a product of the time and the environment. This goes back to that, the life cycle again of teachers and how it's, how it's something that's cyclical. And everybody gets there. And again, I'm not disengaged with being in the classroom. I think I'm disengaged with all the other BS that surrounds it.
And how
where I'm not willing to, I will go above and beyond for my students. I will do, different projects and initiatives in class. Like you initiate something new, that's fine. You want me to use whatever program, I'll use it. But if you're not going to properly train me on it and there's no support in place for me to get help with it when I need it, then don't be surprised if it's not given the 100% good old college try. So
agree.
That's where I'm at. Yeah. All right. So our season 3
is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Teachers Insurance Plan. Check out their website or give them a call. Say, hey, Jack, it's me. For more information and to get a quote, Teachers Insurance Plan, auto insurance that brings exclusive educator savings and exceptional customer care to New Jersey and Pennsylvania educational employees.
All right. So I'm going to go take care of myself.
Yes.
And, it's I absolutely hate it.
And lighten someone's mental load for the month of March.
Yes. That's what everybody should do, all of our listeners, especially if you feel that your spouse needs it. Make sure you give them that opportunity. So
absolutely.
We will see everybody next time on the Balancing Act podcast.
I appreciate you, Mr. Vitale.
I appreciate you too, Miss Wonko. I almost forgot. Have a good one.
Look for the Balancing Act podcast every week on your favorite podcast platform. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Thank you for being a part of our audience. We appreciate you.